Hey everyone, I hope you're okay. Gary Waterman, a former police officer here. I'm going to provide you with an update on this really serious matter that could be affecting everyone. Just to summarise, it appears that a Lloyds Bank employee has been producing fake bank documents, and they could be being used to defraud the public of public spending, taxpayers' money, and that the government and authorities appear to be allowing it to happen. It's all very, very serious. Let me just show you some further emails and documents. Okay, so my complaint regarding Dorset Police now sits, I understand it, and is being reviewed by a gentleman called Richard Corrigan of Avon and Somerset Police, I understand. Please remember that, Avon and Somerset, where Bristol is located, very important. I'll come to that later. So this is an email that I sent on the 7th of November, and I'll read it to you. Dear Richard Corrigan, I'm very concerned about this situation indeed, and understand that you are involved in the review process. Okay, this is in relation to my complaint. This is the complaint number. I have mounting information suggesting how serious this matter is and the number of people and organisations appearing to possibly be involved. I've tried to do everything possible to ensure that it is addressed as it should be, but it appears that organisations are deliberately allowing it to continue. There's obviously little point submitting all evidence to those possibly involved or connected in any way to those possibly involved. This needs to be an independent investigation due to its severity and the number of victims being likely being affected. I've attached a previous letter from the Independent Office for Police Conduct which states that there may be the possibility of a judicial review regarding this. That means it goes to a judge to review the case. It certainly needs something doing with it. I have significant evidence. Please can you confirm the process to ensure that this is dealt with outside of Dorset, as many of those possibly involved are from the Dorset area. I'm happy for you to contact me in relation to this at any time. Contact me at any time. My mobile number is this. Okay, let me show you the next email. Okay, so this is an email that I sent on the 8th of November, okay, very recently, to all of the MPs here. I won't show them all, but it's most Labour MPs around the country, Dorset's MPs, including Conservatives, and the councillors. Keir Starmer is included in there, the Labour leader. Okay, and this is an email that I was sent. I'll read it to you. Okay, it says, Dear all, again, it's in relation to my complaint, and it's also gone to the Serious Fraud Office and the Home Office themselves. Okay, and the Independent Office for Police Conduct. Since my last email, I've received one response from an aide of Keir Starmer, which I've attached along with my reply. This simply suggested that I speak with Citizens Advice, my local MP, or other organisations, which would of course be of no help in this huge, deep-rooted situation and likely affecting millions of people. Unfortunately, only the Home Office government officials can resolve this situation suitably. Yesterday I sent an email for the attention of Superintendent Richard Corrigan, who I believe works for Avon and Somerset Police, as attached. Now please remember, Avon and Somerset, where Bristol is located. I understand that my complaint now sits with Mr Corrigan, and I have requested that he ensures that this matter is dealt with by those outside of the Dorset area, due to many organisations or companies in that area possibly being involved or connected to those involved. I would suggest that it is clear from the latest information regarding Police Crime and Commissioner David Sidgwick's connection, because the PCC for Dorset, connection to those possibly involved in this serious fraud, that he should not be involved in any complaint regarding the investigation, as there will unlikely be an independent investigation. Hopefully you'll be aware, now this is really important, now I haven't disclosed this before, hopefully you'll be aware of Operation Meadows, which was the name given to the supposed investigation into the country's largest banking fraud involving Lloyds Banking Group. On a previous video I've shown the articles and explained this. I now have credible information that this was all a false flag and was therefore likely a ploy to divert away from the real issue, hiding a much bigger fraud involving the forged bank documents that I have acquired. Now, if you look at my previous videos, you had a Guardian article where Noel Edmonds was supposedly a victim. Lloyds Banking Group were advised to set aside £3 billion worth of compensation. If that was all a false flag, which it appears as though it is, and there's other corroborating information I have in relation to this suggesting it as well, then that means it's hiding something very big and is very likely in relation to these documents. Anyway, I go on. You will see from my previous email that there have been various Daily Echo, which is based in Bournemouth, articles associated to the fraud where I've been a victim. I've attached a further article, and I will show you some of these documents in a minute so it makes sense. This is all corroborated. I've attached a further article from the 31st of October which features a gentleman named Jody Martinez Dodge as being a victim, and that he suspects there are millions of pounds involved regarding the fraud. I suspect It is in fact considerably more and involving hundreds of companies and public organisations. Please note that I'm not suggesting that Jody or anyone else mentioned in this email are in any way involved in fraudulent activity, and I'm merely presenting you with the publicly accessible information regarding all of this. You will see from my attachments that Jody was previously employed by JP Morgan and currently by a company called Marex. Both of these companies are linked to Swift Incorporations Limited, which you will see from my previous email has recently applied to dissolve after I made reports of the possible links to them and the fraud. Now they're trying to dissolve in August 2023, even though they've been trading and incorporated in 1985, and they've been trying to dissolve since I reported my fraud. That's really important, and you will see how heavily this company factors as we go through this. In fact, Companies House shows that many of JP Morgan's associated companies were started with Swift Incorporations Limited, or a company with Jordan's in the name. You will see from the a document attached that both Swift Incorporations and Jordan's were involved regarding the start of my company, X1 Manor Freehold Limited, where most of the evidence that I have acquired stems. Now again, I'm not saying, I'm just purely showing you the public records and explaining the public records, okay, that anyone can look at. You can go on Companies House records and type in any of these companies and see exactly what I'm looking at. You just need to click on the various links going through it. Companies House records also show that Jody was instated as a director for his company the same day that Initiative Property Management Limited, who are supposedly being investigated by Dorset Police for fraud, resigned from the company the very same day. Now, Dorset Police, if you look at my previous videos, have taken no further action in relation to my report of fraud. In fact, they refused, and other organisations refused to accept the offer of me sending more significant information to them, in particular the Independent Office for Police Conduct, the Serious Fraud Office. Okay, they have my statement, though, which has a summary of all evidence. They are all discontinuing any investigation, even though there's considerable amount of fraud in relation to it, but they are investigating, supposedly, Initiative Property Management Limited. Further research also suggests that Graham Munro of JP Morgan has recently been employed by Swift. Now, Swift is a different company, okay, and it stands for the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications. He's been employed as their CEO, okay, Chief Executive Officer, and that Samantha Jane Emery of the Lloyds Banking Group has also recently been employed by them. Anyone can look at these companies, remember. Swift UK and Ireland Limited and Swift UK Limited, of which Samantha Emery, who I've just mentioned is a director, were both started using Swift Incorporations Limited. Please note that information suggests the forged bank documents that I have acquired appears to have been produced by an employee of Lloyds Bank. Now, Samantha Emery worked for Lloyds Banking Group. Swift UK has many banks linked to them, including most, if not all, UK banks, German banks and American banks, which of course is not surprising due to the fact that Swift is involved with most of the world's international transactions, including offshore accounts. Very important. I've attached documents confirming all of this. The question therefore, and this is important, the question therefore is, why is the Daily Echo so interested in speaking with Jody Martinez Dodge, whom has links to these companies, but has ignored all of my attempts to contact them, particularly when I'm a former police officer and have significant information and evidence about what is actually happening in relation to Initiative Property Management Limited, and importantly, where the missing money is going, which now, as Jody says, is millions. I suspect a lot more. Further research surrounding my company reveals that there are many companies, and this is really important, listen to this, so this is how I believe or suspect the fraud is taking place, and you can do your own research and see this. Further research surrounding my company reveals that there are many companies with links to the same addresses, individuals or companies surrounding my company, where, don't forget, the evidence that I have stemmed from. There are so many links, in fact, that it cannot be a coincidence, particularly when details are being used for individuals for companies to which they appear to have no connection personally, but are linked to others. For example, you have a name of a director linked to one company, and the address for them is an address for another company, but they're not linked to that company, that they're basically using all the same information and changing it around, and they're all linked in some way, shape or form. This is a well-documented method of fraud whereby companies use various bank accounts of other companies collectively to move money around, okay, and eventually into offshore accounts or otherwise, and back to those involved in the fraud. This includes money being defrauded and exploited from victims along the way, as I suspect the case was for me. Now, I was defrauded, or believed defrauded, because I was paying into the maintenance account for my building, which my company relates, but I have significant evidence to suggest that over £167,000 wasn't paid in by others, which meant I was paying more, okay, because the building still needed to be maintained, and I wasn't aware of it for years. So that's fraud. If they're deceiving me to omit their own payments, meaning I pay more, that's fraud. You may be aware of the recent CNBC article regarding Bankman-Fried being found guilty of fraud in America. He is part of the FTX group, and again, I'll show you documents with all of this in a minute. Part of the FTX group, and you will see from Companies House records attached that FTX Group Limited are directly linked to Castle Entertainment Limited, who was started using Barbara Kahan of an address in Finchley Road, London. Research shows, and anyone can look at this, if you type in Barbara Kahan fraud or Finchley Road fraud, you'll see this. It shows that Barbara Kahan is likely a deceased person, and that is a name notorious to being associated with company fraud and money laundering, as are companies linked to Finchley Road, London. The government should not be continuing to allow this. If they do, it only appears to suggest they are somehow involved and benefiting personally from doing so. This all very simply requires regulation of the registration of companies, so that they cannot use empty, unrelated addresses or details of deceased individuals to start up companies and in turn exploit and defraud victims. So you'll see a lot of evidence when you look into all the companies. They're linked to addresses, tens of thousands of companies, sometimes more, linked to a particular address. Well, you can't fit all of them into that address. And when you go there, they're not actually, nobody associated with that address is even linked there a lot of the time. So why aren't they regulating this? This will almost instantly make this method of fraud more unlikely by regulating this. But despite knowing about this since at least 2019, the government appeared to be allowing it to continue. Now, in my previous videos, you'll see there was a Ham and High article from May 2019 saying that the government were being consulted in relation to this very problem. It's very simple to resolve. Appear to be allowing this to continue. As with many applications, okay, a proof of an address and identification should be required in any company registration. You and I have to do it for a lot of things. We have to provide a utility bill to provide a proof of an address. We have to provide proof of identity, a driving license or passport. They're not doing this, they don't appear to be doing this, with any of these companies, which is allowing this fraud to happen. If someone knows that they're linked to an address and their real details are being used, they're less likely to commit fraud because they know it will come back to them. You know, and let's not forget from my previous videos as well, the officials, so Dorset Police, appear to be allowing an immunity for banks to produce fake bank documents. The government are aware of this and are refusing to intervene, including the Home Office, who oversee the constabularies around the country. They're aware of this immunity being given. They can get an evidential statement from the bank to prove that bank statements are fake or forged, which in my case is very clearly the case. But they're allowing it to happen by allowing that immunity for prosecution for bank staff to produce them. Despite all of this, I still have hope that members of the Parliament can practice the moral integrity that they no doubt teach their children and ensure that this terrible victimisation of innocent members of the public ceases. As always, I'm more than happy for anyone to contact me should they wish to discuss this matter. My mobile number is this. God bless you all. Next video. Sorry, not next video. Another part of an email. Okay, so this is the second email that I sent on the 8th of Wednesday, 8th November. Again, you can see to members of Parliament, almost all Labour MPs. Keir Starmer's in there. Tobias Ellwood again, he's a local MP for the area Conservative MP. councillors for Bournemouth and all MPs for Dorset, including the Serious Fraud Office was in there, the Independent Office Police Conduct, etc, etc. Also have put in there the complaints team, been copied in on this. Okay, and it says, dear all, further, there is now further information linking Bournemouth Council to those possibly involved with the fraud back to my company. I've attached Companies House records confirming this. This raises significant concerns about the tax being taken from Dorset constituents or the public in that area and possibly being defrauded in the process. Of course it is. If there's links and potentially people within Dorset Council potentially linked to those involved in the fraud, they could be defrauding taxpayers' money. And importantly, as you know from my previous emails and you'll know from previous videos, a former NHS Chief Executive Officer who was in charge of a significant budget, now I have information it's £700 million at least, and over 10,000 staff that are in control of him, also has direct links with an accountant appearing to be using the forged bank documents produced by the bank for years. It's important to note that so I haven't written this very well. It's important to note that one of their associated companies is also closely linked, and again, Companies House records show this. Look at my previous videos, to Barbara Kahan. Again, remember we mentioned her a minute ago, linked to the fraud, and we'll come on to it again as well. Barbara Kahan and Finchley Road. Again, 2019, they were aware that these were notorious to be involved in fraudulent activity and money laundering. Yet an NHS Chief Executive has a company linked to them. Why is that being allowed to happen? Let me show you some documents in relation to this email. Okay, I've shown these on some previous videos. I'm going to show you again a couple of these. A Daily Echo article. This one is the first one that I was aware of, 21st of November 2023, in relation to Initiative Property Management being investigated by Dorset Police, okay, in relation to fraud. The same officer that reviewed my case, Andrew Kennard, is involved. Let me show you the next one. Okay, so 21st of September, remember that please. Okay, so this is another Daily Echo article. This was on the 27th of October. Bearing in mind that's over a month after the initial report or article by the Daily Echo highlighting they were investigating this company, and only now does Dorset Police raid that business park. You would not do that. You would do a search warrant early on in the investigation. They have allowed a month for evidence to be concealed, destroyed, tampered with. That is not how you run an investigation. I believe, or this certainly appears to be, a deliberate attempt to allow evidence linking potentially police, MPs or anyone else they don't want to know about to this fraud. Okay. Now just note, Matt Simpson, I've contacted Matt numerous occasions from Daily Echo and sent him significant information in relation to all of this fraud, and they are not contacting me. Even though I'm willing to provide information, they are not doing it. Okay, so this is an article I haven't found before, shown before. This relates, as I've said in the email, to a gentleman called Mr. Dodge, Martinez Dodge, Jody, sorry, I forgot his first name then, Jody Martinez Dodge. Please note, I'm not suggesting that Jody is involved in fraud in any way. However, okay, this article is on the 31st of October. However, you need to establish and understand the public record links to this gentleman. Now, he has come on here saying he is a victim, and he believes that there's millions of pounds worth could be missing in relation to Initiative Property Management Limited that the Dorset Police are investigating. Okay, I suspect it's significantly more than that. Please remember, I'm not suggesting Jody is involved in this fraud at all. But if you look at Companies House records, you will see that Jody is linked to Orchardley Park Management Limited. Initiative Property Management Limited, okay, the company that's being investigated by Dorset Police, and they are linked, don't forget, to many companies. I've done a big spreadsheet and you can see they're linked to many companies surrounding my company where the fraud relates. Okay, they resigned as a secretary for the company on the 19th of September 2023, and Jody was employed or instated as a director on the very same day, 19th of September. Anyone can look at these public house records, Companies House records. Now again, this is public information. This is Jody's LinkedIn page, Jody Martinez Dodge. You can see he works for a company called Marex. Okay, this is his background. Currently Marex, importantly, also worked for JP Morgan. This is why this is important. If you look into the Marex group, okay, you can see that Marex was incorporated by Swift Incorporations Limited in 2005. The very same company that is trying to dissolve in August since I reported the linked fraud, and even though they've been trading since 1985. Again, this company is linked to Marex as well. Please remember, Bristol, we have Richard Corrigan, who is based in Avon and Somerset, is sitting with my complaint regarding all of this. Bristol is in Avon and Somerset. Many of the companies appearing to be linked to a lot of these companies, many of these companies on Companies House are linked to nominee directors or nominee secretaries based in Bristol. It's really important. Okay, JP Morgan itself. Okay, if you look into JP Morgan Limited, they have a company called JP Morgan Secretaries. Many of the companies linked through JP Morgan Secretaries were started up with Swift Incorporations Limited. Again, either that or they were started using Jordan, a company called Jordan Company Secretaries. That's very, very relevant. Again, remember, an address in Bristol, Thomas Street, Bristol, 21 St Thomas Street, Bristol. Please remember that. Swift Incorporations Limited, recently trying to dissolve. These are all linked through JP Morgan Secretaries. Again, Jordan and Swift Incorporation Limited. Jordan's, another incorporation company. Okay, so remember that. Jordan, Swift Incorporation Limited, linked to JP Morgan, linked to obviously Jody Martinez Dodge. Now, if you look at Graham Munro is the managing director at JP Morgan. Lots of experience, okay? He has recently been employed by Swift. So Swift deal with the international transaction, including offshore accounts transactions. He has recently been employed by Swift as a new chair for them. Has been elected non-executive chair of the Swift board of directors. Okay. Also, Samantha Emery, and this is important, of Lloyds Banking Group has been named to the board. Now remember, the forged bank documents I suspect, everything suggests, and I have a lot of evidence about this. I've got over 2,500 documents now, nearly 3,000 documents, all supporting everything I'm telling you. Okay, and an over, I think it's 80,000 word statement now. Samantha Emery of Lloyds Banking Group has also been named to the board with Swift. Okay. Now, Javier Perez Tasso, you'll see on the link to, this is the LinkedIn page. It's also linked to Graham Munro, okay, in terms of people have also viewed him. He's the CEO, Chief Executive Officer for Swift. Okay, now, unsurprisingly, when you look into Swift, Swift. Bear with me. Where am I? Swift UK and Ireland Limited. It was started using Swift Incorporations Limited. Okay, Swift UK and Ireland Limited, involved in international transaction and offshore accounts, was started with the same company that's trying to dissolve, where all of this fraud seems to stem from my company. Samantha Jane Emery, this is her company house records. You can look at this. She is a director for Swift UK Limited. If you go into Swift UK Limited, no surprise, you have most banks linked to it. Swift, remember, is involved in international transactions, including offshore account transactions. Please remember that I'm not suggesting these people are involved in fraud, but you've got Royal Bank of Scotland, HSBC, the Bank of New York, Bank of America, Bank of England, Global Payments in Cash, Dutch Bank UK, BFC Bank, NatWest Bank. Okay, there's others, there's lots more, all linked to Swift transaction accounts. Not surprising. Anyway, let me show you to the next document. Okay, so the question and the reason I'm showing all these articles from the Daily Echo is, why aren't they contacting me? I've sent them considerable information, and here's proof of that. Matthew Simpson, okay, is one of the journalists. Tom Ord works for the Bournemouth Echo. There's other news agencies that I've contacted here. But you can see I've sent them significant information about this. Nobody is contacting me, but they are choosing to speak to Jody, who has connections to all of the companies potentially involved in the fraud. I have significant information where all of this money is going, and evidence that requires an investigation, but nobody is investigating it. So this is just to show, this is one email. I have sent considerable email to Daily Echo and almost all other mainstream media outlets. None of them are responding. Okay, you will notice earlier I mentioned Jordan, the company named Jordan. So I haven't mentioned this before, but it's now becoming relevant. JP Morgan many of their offshoot companies through Jordan secretaries was started up using either Swift Incorporations Limited or a company involving Jordans. This is my company's incorporation document, one of them, Exbon Manor Freehold Limited. I'm still a shareholder in that company. Swift Incorporations Limited was involved in starting up the company in 2007. I was a director in 2009. So prior to me being a director, they were involved in the startup, as was Jordans Limited. Again, look, the same address, 21 St Thomas Street in Bristol, Jordans Limited. However, you remember from the email I read you, I mentioned Bankman-Fried being found guilty on all fraud. They've been found guilty of 7 counts of fraud actually in America. You can see this is the article here, so you know it's true. Presumably it's true. November the 2nd, okay, there's nothing wrong with me showing this, it's public information. It's found guilty of 7 counts of serious fraud, I believe. FTX is the company that Bankman-Fried was involved in. If you look at Companies House records for FTX Group, here's the Companies House records. Anyone can look at it. It goes through and is linked to a company called Castle Entertainment Limited. Remember what I said, the fraud is where a method of fraud is where they create companies within companies. They're called shell companies. They move money between accounts and then defraud victims by sending it into offshore accounts. But this is important. Linked to Castle Entertainment is Barbara Kahan of an address in Finchley Road. Remember, I've mentioned that. Look it up. Barbara Kahan, Company House Frauds. Look up Finchley Road. Normally 788 to 790 Finchley Road. But what's happening is they're using addresses that normally they're using addresses that they're not even associated with. They have nothing in there. If you go to the addresses, a lot of the time, I'm not saying this is the case for this, but they're using, it also appears the name of a deceased person. If you look up Barbara Kahan, she died in 2000. But apparently, look, she was used to open this company in 2010. How is that being allowed to happen? Next document. Now, you notice I mentioned Dorset County Council. That's where my company relates, the building that we are the freehold company for relates to. If you look into Dorset County Council Companies House records, you'll see that it's linked to Bournemouth, Dorset and Paul Economic Partnership Group. In through that, I'm not saying these companies are involved in fraud, please remember that. But there are links that link back, and you can look at this yourself, back to Initiative Property Management Limited. Resigned from them 2023. They were involved. This company is being investigated for millions of pounds worth of fraud. They are linked to the council, Bournemouth Council. Okay, there's other links. If you look at Bournemouth, Paul and Dorset, I've redacted people's details here just because I don't want to get them in trouble at the moment. But this needs to be investigated. This will probably all come out soon. This is all documented in the statement. All of these documents are exhibited. This will all be disclosed. If you go in through there, it links through to these management companies that then link directly. These companies are all linked very closely to the fraud surrounding my building and the people involved in my company. So there's a link to Dorset Council going through to these. That means taxpayers' money could be being defrauded. And a final document, I've shown some of this before. This is David John Sidgwick's Company House records. You can look at this. He is the Police Crime and Commissioner for Dorset, works alongside high-ranking Dorset police officers. Look at my other videos to suggest that Dorset police could be involved. Leaked information from my investigation to a former police officer linked to an NHS chief executive. Look at my other videos. Potentially second in command of the whole force is in command or sort of overseeing the department that should be investigating the fraud. It looks as though her family members could be shareholders for my company, all linked. Anyway, David John Sidgwick's Company House records, he's linked or previously associated to this company. Also, still, when I last looked, linked to Bournemouth School. Okay, this company's previous company, again, is linked back to 788, 790 Finchley Road, London. Temple Secretaries, Finchley Road, London. Notorious for being used in money laundering and fraud. Importantly, going through Bournemouth School. Now, I've redacted these people's details, but there's a director in there, okay, that links back to the chief executive, NHS chief executive's company that she's linked to, who is friends with the accountant appearing to file the false bank accounts and have been for years. Okay, these are all links going back to those involved in the fraud. Again, you can see another link, Temple Health Secretaries, Finchley Road, London. Notorious for fraud. This is all being covered up. Nobody's investigating this. Importantly, again, you can slow this down, pause it, look back through it. These are companies linked. You can do these checks. A right to management company started up again with Swift Incorporations Limited. This is unreal. It is, and this is huge. This is absolutely huge, and everyone's trying to hide it away. Let's hope they do something soon. Thanks for watching. More videos to follow soon if necessary. God bless. Bye.